Welcome to Nick on Knicks, where your boy N.I.C rants about the latest Knicks news. We got some news. We got some big news in the association last night. Off the top, gotta say, look at my face. Yeah, my dog headbutted me in the face, man. I got a fat lip. Had a networking event the day after, and obviously it's not me looking my aesthetic best, but it is what it is. The Knicks had a week of ups and downs, and there was a huge move in the NBA, which we will get to a little bit later. This is a Knicks show, so we're going to talk Knicks first, but we have to talk about this trade, arguably one of the biggest trades in NBA history. Many people are calling it that, and we're going to talk about it a little bit because I got some opinions. But let's talk about the Knicks and the week that they've had. It's going to be hard to talk about the entire week and not specifically key on the game against the Lakers Saturday night, where the Knicks lost 128-112 to a Laker team that looked hungrier, that looked better prepared tactically, and was led by a LeBron James who, from pregame, looked like he meant business. You could tell he was locked in. You could see that look in his eye when they started showing him warming up. I'm not going to lie, I got a little bit nervous. He's hitting logo threes, and he just seemed extremely focused. And as we know, LeBron James has dominated the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. The record is great. The scoring average is great. There's been signature moments. As Knicks fans, we got used to seeing other great players come into our gym and have signature moments. And it's something that we've been able to turn around here recently. But on Saturday night in MSG, LeBron James absolutely put on a show, and he led the Lakers to a victory. LeBron was inspired, man. 14 of 26 from the floor, 3 of 8 from behind the arc, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, triple-double with 33 points for LeBron. He was excellent. He really was. And I thought that he started off the game with the killer instinct. And then you saw especially, and this is another kind of lead story from this game, once OG went out with the foot injury, non-contact, they're calling it a foot sprain. X-rays are negative. And we're going to dive in a little bit to more to what that could mean for this Knicks team moving forward without OG Anunoby for who knows how long. But it's going to be a tough road ahead. And if this game was any indication of what the Knicks look like when they don't have OG, because OG was a +1 on the night, and the Knicks lost by 16. And this game really wasn't close for most of the second half. Knicks made a couple little runs. There was a time in the fourth quarter where it felt like, maybe they had a chance. And then there was a Brunson turnover that basically sealed it when he tried to, I think he had Austin Reeves in the post. He tried to make a slick pass to, it was Mikal Bridges, I'm pretty sure. And it was a turnover. They ran the other way. And I don't remember if it ended up in a 3 or a dunk. But to be quite frank, the Lakers got whatever they wanted. They were getting to the rim for easy dunks, and they were shooting wide open threes all night long. And that led to the Lakers shooting 47.5% from behind the arc and 58% from the field in total. It's very hard to win a game when a team shoots that well. And this was not one of those things where it was just like, oh, they're just making impossible shots. No, they were running good offense, getting good shots, and knocking them down repeatedly. The Knicks, on the other hand, got probably the worst offensive game from both Cat and JB, maybe of the season. It was tough sledding for those guys. They were missing shots that they typically make. Cat was 3 of 12, 1 of 2 from behind the arc. He had 5 fouls. He only had 3 assists. He only had 6 rebounds in 35 minutes for a guy that's averaging close to 14. And he was a -15 on the night. It's very, very tough night for Karl Anthony Towns. Some of those inside shots, some of those hooks that he typically feel like he would make, they just weren't dropping for him. And I mean, listen, the thumb is an issue. The thumb is absolutely a problem. There is no denying that. We've seen it on the three-point shot, and now we're seeing it when it comes to some of the touch around the rim. Karl Anthony Towns is not right. He's just not. And he's doing his best to play through it. I commend him for that. But I'm hoping that he is able to make adjustments over time and kind of get that shooting stroke back. The numbers are way down post thumb injury. He was having an all-time shooting season, 50, 45, and 85. And since that thumb injury has happened, I don't know the exact numbers. I do know the numbers are down. And it's just clear. You can watch him when he shoots. He's grabbing at it, fairly often throughout the game. And it's just going to be something that he's going to have to deal with and manage for the rest of the season. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in right now across all the different platforms. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, X, as well as Instagram. If you are live on any of those platforms, hop into the live chat, hit me with a comment, talk to me. How are we feeling? How do you feel about the Knicks? They get 2 statement wins this week. They beat a Memphis Grizzlies team that came in hot, that everybody says is one of the better teams in the NBA, and they handled them easily, made Ja quit. And then they take care of Denver. They win that game by 10. Joker's talking about how we're one of the contenders in the league after the game. You're starting to feel good. The Knicks have won 5 straight ever since that MLK game against the Atlanta Hawks. And then Saturday night against the Lakers, you see a few things that make you very nervous about this team moving forward. And the first thing, obviously, is OG Anunoby has a non-contact foot injury. They're calling it a sprain. It looked like it could have been an Achilles. He goes down in a heap, walks off under his own power, but he's already been ruled out for Monday's game against the Houston Rockets, and he is, will be reevaluated. There's no timetable, and with the Knicks, and when it comes to injuries, we know that any timetable they put out is hard to go by as well. And the scary part about this is that, first and foremost, this Knicks team, when they have OG Anunoby, since we've made that trade for him last year, fairly sure it was on December 31st, we made the trade sending RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly up to Toronto and getting back OG and Precious. And in the games that OG has been present, the Knicks have a fantastic record. But throughout his career and last year, during the season, last year, during the playoffs, and now moving forward, hopefully not for too long, OG's going to be out, and the Knicks, their record is significantly worse without OG Anunoby. He makes up for so many things with his ability to roam on the defensive end, guard multiple positions. He can knock down a corner 3. And you saw without him yesterday, a lineup with Precious Achiuwa and Josh Hart on the floor at the same time. It's totally different than what we've seen from this Knicks offense so far this season. Totally different. Because this team and their spacing and their ability to move the ball, those are the strong suits. That's why we have the second best offensive rating in the NBA. But when Josh Hart is losing confidence and just straight up missing shots, and then Precious is in the corner and they're not paying any attention to him over there, now all of a sudden the spaces where a Brunson or where a Karl Anthony Towns or even where Bridges have been able to operate are a lot tighter. Guys are sagging off. And so how long OG is out is going to be a major factor and a major story for this Knicks team. And the scary part with OG is that, he has had some injury history, and he's had like small injuries that seem like they're not going to be a big deal linger on. And we saw it firsthand last year with the elbow with the Knicks. Initially, he was day-to-day. He ended up missing, upwards of 20 games with the elbow injury. And it was one of those things where you just kept getting an update that he wasn't quite ready yet. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And then they shut him down and then they gave him a shot. And you just, with this sprained foot, you just wonder if this is going to be one of those things that lingers. I was listening to John Macri in his post game from Knicks film school. And he said right now, if you could tell me for a fact that OG was going to miss 20 games and he was going to come back healthy after those 20, I'd sign up for that just because I'm so scared of the alternative. That's a depressing thought, but it's kind of hard not to agree. I mean, guys, tell me what you think in the comments. How long do you think OG will be out? And what do the Knicks do to try and mask this injury for a player who on this team is truly irreplaceable? OG was 3 of 4 from 3 when he went out. He was 5 of 7 from the floor. He had 2 blocks. Like I said, he was a +1 on the night. The only starter who ended up in the positive when it comes to plus minus. 13 points. OG offensively it was seeming like he was starting to figure some things out here recently. He was seeming like he was being able to, pick his spots and find his spaces on the floor where he can be, not only aggressive, but be effective. And the shot was falling. He was starting to hit the three. God, man. This Knicks team, we've played this season without a significant injury. Karl Anthony Towns has missed 5 games. It was 2 here, 1 here. I think Josh Hart missed 1 game for personal reasons. And other than that, Brunson missed 1 game with the calf. Other than that, we have been extremely healthy this year. And so now we get our first test. And what are we going to do to deal with adversity? And it's extremely alarming for the simple fact that we already are not a deep team. We already struggle to find guys who can give competent minutes. And I don't think anybody's looking forward to seeing more of Landry Shamet. I'm starting to believe Landry Shamet is just not that good. It's just not. I was listening to Hot Hand Theory, and Jeff from Hot Hand Theory, he made a point the fact that every place that Landry Shamet goes, they look at him as a player and they try to get him involved, and because they feel like he can help, and he never sticks. And there's a reason for that. I've been saying for a while now that that's what the Knicks need to do at the trade deadline, more so than a big man. They need to upgrade Landry Shamet. They need to get a wing that can play, that can hit a three, that can play some defense, that you can rely to be on the floor and get some serious minutes, more so than you can with a Landry Shamet. And now we're going to see Landry Shamet's role expand, especially depending on what the Knicks do or don't do before this week's February 6th trade deadline. Yeah, I thought that this really exposes our lack of depth. And I also thought that let me preempt this with, I love Tibbs. I'm a Tibbs supporter. He is the best thing that's happened to the Knicks in a long time. He's a great coach, and I don't want the Knicks to fire Tibbs. I don't want the Knicks to have a different coach. JJ Redick ran circles around Tibbs last night. I got to keep it a buck. You got to keep it real. JJ Redick is one of the best young basketball minds in the world. If you used to listen to his podcast, The Old Man and the Three, where he got to really take his time and break down, certain things about basketball. And, on a show like First Take, where, you're basically just giving hot takes and you have these short windows that you have to speak. If you listen to The Old Man and the Three, his podcast, before he got the job with the Lakers, the guy is brilliant when it comes to talking hoops. clearly is an absolute student of the game who truly studies, who truly watches all these different teams. I mean, he's a junkie. And you see that with this Lakers team, which has been playing very well, by the way. Knicks have been like first in net rating over the last couple of weeks. The Lakers were number 2. And they were 4-1 or 3-1. They're now 4-1 since Anthony Davis got injured with the abdominal injury. And a lot of people were saying that, hey, if they can continue to play this way, once AD returns, they could be a team in the West to really deal with and be scared of. Well, Anthony Davis will not be returning. Because later on last night, a little something else happened that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But the Lakers are now 28-19. And I think with that roster, you have to say that JJ Redick has clearly done a very good job. And the thing about Redick, if you really watch basketball, you know that he game plans for particular opponents and switches up how they attack and what they do schematically as good as any coach in the NBA. Most coaches in the NBA, they have kind of like a base of what they do and their philosophies, and that's what they do. Not JJ Redick, man. You can point to games against the Cavs earlier this season. You can point to the game against Boston where they made sure that all they did was guard the three-point line and make Boston do something else. The game against Memphis where their game plan was to just basically get the first 8 seconds and muddy that up and make them have to actually generate offense as opposed to playing so fast. Nick saw that on Monday, that when you really dig in against Memphis and you don't let them run out on you, their half-court offense isn't that explosive or dynamic. JJ Redick is a very smart guy. LeBron is a basketball savant, and I thought that was all on full display last night. They put the wing on Cat, which always gives him issues. The Knicks were slow to adjust to that. And then when they did get Cat down in the post, Cat wasn't able to finish on some of those small, easier shots, but I still thought they didn't do a good enough job of getting him the ball on the block. So one of my criticisms of the Knicks so far this season is we do not do enough of getting Cat the ball in the paint on the block where he can do damage when guys try to put smaller defenders on him. And Karl Anthony Towns, he just didn't play well. 3 of 12, 11 points and 6 rebounds in 35 minutes is probably the worst game that Karl Anthony Towns has had all season. Jalen Brunson, 40 minutes, 7 of 18, 3 of 7, 7 assists, 17 points, 6 turnovers, and a minus 17 on the night. I think that's Brunson's worst game of the season as well. And when LeBron is playing the way that he did, and our stars are playing the way that they did, it's going to be very hard to win a game. The Lakers wanted it more. Rui Hachimura had a little span where he's playing well. He's hitting threes. He was 3 of 6 from behind the arc. Dorian Finney-Smith, 5 of 6 from behind the arc, killing us. The Lakers shot the ball well, no doubt. And sometimes an NBA team, if they're shooting like that, it's impossible to do anything with them. But I thought that it wasn't just like they were just chucking up bullshit. They were taking and making good shots, and they were running a good offense. They were running a 5-out, and they were hunting Cat. Austin Reeves, pick and roll, get Cat on him, was abusing him. And we seemed like we had no answer for it individually as players, team-wise as a defense, or schematically as a coaching staff. I thought JJ Redick, man, I thought they did a very good job. They put Cat and PNR over and over again. They ran PNR to get the switch that they wanted, and they attacked it. And we had nothing for it. Now, one thing I will say about Tibbs is that we've seen Tibbs just in this season make adjustments. We've seen Tibbs go out there and say, all right, well, we are switching too much. We're helping too much. And I need to figure out a way to be able to make us be more aggressive on defense while also mixing up the defensive coverages so it's not so predictable. I say going back to that Atlanta game, I saw a change and I've seen it since then. So I'm hoping that this is a game that Tibbs takes a step back and he looks at the film and he says, yo, first of all, we this is our deficiency that we need to get better at. We need to figure out a way that when somebody puts a wing on Cat, we figure out a way to get him the ball close enough to the basket where he can use his size as an advantage and not have to try to like dribble past or through this wing. And if we put a wing on Cat, how do we get it so that he can still get up a decent amount of threes? I mean, it was 1 of 2 from 3. We need Cat shooting 3 or 4 threes. As a team, we were not able to generate good looks from 3. We're 10 of 28. 28 is not enough threes in a game for a modern NBA. And, shooting 35% is typically not going to get it done. Darlene, salute to you. Always showing love. Appreciate you. And, this Knicks team, man, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we did win 5 straight and had a 2-1 week. And those 2 wins were against the Memphis Grizzlies and the Denver Nuggets, 2 teams that a lot of people, if you ask them, people feel like are in that, hey, has a chance to make some noise, get to a conference championship, maybe even a championship. I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have definitely made some strides. Tibbs has opened up the bench a little bit. We've been playing better defense on a consistent basis. I don't want to lose sight of that. But it's hard not to look at that game right there and say there's some definite warts with this team, and it's going to be very scary what ends up happening moving forward without OG Anunoby. Who knows how long he's going to be out, but like I said, seeing more Landry Shamet is not the answer. And one thing about last night that I also didn't like when it came to Tibbs was Jalen Brunson played the entire second half. It's not he's not going to finish well in games where he's playing the entire second half. And in the fourth quarter, he was making mental mistakes. The shot was falling short. I just don't like when he plays the entire second half, point blank, period. You got to figure out a way to get a Cameron Payne out there for more than 5 minutes and 48 seconds. And Cam Payne didn't play that well. And he's not always going to hit those slingshot threes and give you a reason to be able to say, hey, man, we need Cam Payne on the floor. But there has to be a point where you let him play through some of that. And you just let JB get a bit of a blow in the second half, man. You can't have him play the whole second half. I don't like him playing 40 minutes in a regular season game. It's not even necessarily the 40, honestly. It's not even about the total number for me. It's more about 24 in the second half. 24 minutes in the second half, and him looking a little bit spent at the end. I thought that Deuce gave us some decent minutes. He played 22 minutes. Precious obviously played big minutes. He's been playing close to 20 minutes, but he played almost 30 minutes in this game without OG. He was getting a lot of those, power forward minutes for this Knicks team. And I thought that Precious gave you great effort. Okay. He had 15 points and 15 rebounds. I thought that he did a great job D'ing up LeBron at certain points. Obviously, LeBron had a big game. He's LeBron James, and LeBron was doing his thing. But I thought that Precious held his own. But I think that moving forward, if you run a starting 5 with Precious Achiuwa and Josh Hart both on the floor at the same time, the spacing gets real dicey, man. The spacing gets real dicey with that lineup out there. Precious, though he has shot the 3 a little bit better this season, has not shown anything that's going to make anybody scared of him. If you park him in the corner, that guy is just roaming now and causing havoc for the rest of your team. I really don't know how we're going to deal with this. And you know what? If the Knicks came into this season feeling like they were going to get 82 games out of OG Anunoby, then they're stupid. He's never been able to do that in his career. And hopefully, I want to say hopefully they have a plan, but I mean, I know who's on the roster. What's the plan? You know, we got the trade deadline coming up in just 4 days. And we are up against the second apron, so we can't take in more money than we give out. So what exactly do the Knicks do? I've been saying we need to add a wing. Now that is imperative. We have to add a wing if OG is going to miss any sort of time. And we have to add a wing regardless, just because we're not going to stay perfectly healthy the entire year. And Landry Shamet ain't it. He's just not. Landry Shamet looks like he should be working at the front of the Big Cat Bodega. And, I'm sorry, but he's not a rotation player in the NBA. He's just not. I understand he's one of those guys, when you look at him, you look at his size, you look at his defense, you look at he's got a decent shot, but it just doesn't translate. And it hasn't translated his entire career. It's the reason that he's bounced around. And, as we've asked more of him as he's come back from this injury, the more and more I feel like we need to upgrade that position. So the Knicks show you some good things this week. And then on Saturday against the Lakers, they give you some concern. Knicks have another big week coming up, tough week, especially with no OG. They got the Rockets on Monday. Then they turn around and they play the Raptors in Toronto on Tuesday. And then they get some days off, and then they play the Celtics on Saturday in Madison Square Garden. That Celtics game, you're dealing with Tatum and you're dealing with Brown, and you don't have OG, your best wing defender. It's going to be tough. This Houston game is going to be very interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting. This Houston team has been playing like one of the best teams in the league. They are extremely well coached. They have a lot of young, versatile talent. They play tough, hard defense. And they're coming into the Garden and they want to announce themselves and show everybody that they are for real. And as we saw from LeBron James and the Lakers, everybody gets up to play against the Knicks in the Garden. Even when the Knicks sucked, everybody got up to play us. Now that we have, one of the 5 best records in the NBA, that we're a number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, everybody's getting up for the Knicks. We need to match that intensity. We need to come out with a fervor and an urgency from the very beginning. And if we don't, Houston will run us off the floor. It'll look like that second OKC game. But hey, the team that I saw play against Memphis, that team can play with anybody. We just got to pray. We got to pray for OG, man. Pray for OG. Oh, man. It's just like all season we've been lucky. And, it was almost like the elephant in the room that a lot of Knicks fans, like myself, didn't even really want to acknowledge, just the fact that we had been extremely, extremely fortunate when it came to injuries thus far. So Monday night, Houston, will the Knicks be able to bring it? Will they be able to, without OG and Anunoby, will they be able to get in there and fight this young, scrappy team and show some backbone? I know they did not like being embarrassed like that on national television. Josh Hart, I thought, even though he was 1 of 5 from 3, and a few of them weren't even close, Josh Hart gave you that typical effort. He gave you 26 points. He was 11 of 16. He made what? He made almost all of it. He only missed one 2-point field goal. He had 11 assists, 13 boards. It's a Josh Hart night, man. That was one bright spot for the Knicks tonight, was the offensive rebounds. They did a great job on the glass, and really, especially with the way that we shot the ball, that's what kept us in it. The Knicks outscored the Lakers 21-2 on second chance points. So that tells the story right there. Points in the paint was pretty even, 54-52, with the Knicks outscoring the Lakers by 2 points. Fast break points, the Lakers outscored the Knicks 18-9. And that's because we're missing a whole lot of shots, and they were getting out and running. And we turned the ball over entirely too much. 14 turnovers. It's actually not horrible. I thought it would be worse. Brunson had 6 himself. You know, Darlene says the Knicks were not ready for all that hype that came with the Lakers game. If that's the case, that really, really, really bothers me. I mean, his team, they played in the playoffs last year. You know, Brunson had an all-time playoffs. Karl Anthony Towns has been a marquee player for years and played in tons of big games. His team went to the Western Conference Finals last year. If they're not ready for the hype, then, you know, I think everybody needs to look themselves in the mirror, and that's all of the players, the coaches, the you know, Leon Rose, everybody. You got to be come on. These are professional basketball players. It is well into the season. This is a team with aspirations. They need to be coming out on a nightly basis, ready to turn it up. And the Lakers turned it up last night, and the Knicks did not. And why that happens from one night to another is always hard to say. But I hope what you said, Darlene, is not the reason that they just weren't ready for the hype. And if so, it better be a learning experience. I think this game needs to be a learning experience. It needs to be a learning experience for Karl Anthony Towns, for Jalen Brunson, and for Tom Thibodeau. Because the other team's star played like a star last night. Our stars did not. AP says that the Knicks are a second round exit again. AP, you are new here. Doesn't sound like you're a Knicks fan, but we do appreciate the engagement. I think saying that the Knicks are a second round exit, I would like you to expand on why you feel that way, because this team lost in the second round last year when they were extremely depleted. They had 3 of their, you know, what they have 3 of their 4 best players, and, you know, that weren't available, and they kept on getting hurt throughout that Pacers series. I still say if Josh Hart doesn't tear the abdominal muscle, even without OG, we get past the Pacers. And this year's team is clearly better. So I don't know why you think that they're a second round exit, but let us know in the chat. Expand on it, please. All right. So after the game is over, hanging out Saturday night, having a couple adult beverages, and then all of a sudden, I see an update, and it was a Bleacher Report update, and I was like, wait, what? And my brain had to stop and think, like, okay, this is not like a fake Twitter account. This is something that has already been tweeted by Shams, and you know, this has now been aggregated through Bleacher Report. So this is real. So I had to like tell myself this was real. And clearly that was the reaction across the NBA nation, because Shams, after making the tweet, then had to tweet, yes, this is real. And the news that Shams was breaking was that the Lakers were trading Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first round pick to the Mavericks. And the Mavericks were sending back Max Kleber, Markieff Morris, and Luka Doncic. The Jazz were also involved. Jalen Hood, Chafino, a 2025 second round pick from the Clippers, and the Mavericks 2025 second round pick as well. But what this really comes down to is the Lakers just traded AD for Luka. And I mean, this is an absolute seismic trade. You do not see two all NBA players, two top 10 players in the league when healthy, get traded for each other in the middle of a season. It just doesn't happen. I've been following the NBA my entire life. I just turned 40, and I've never, ever seen anything like this in my entire life. Just out of nowhere, man. And when a player like this moves, like a Luka, it never happens like this. You typically find out that it's going to happen. You find out, there's rumors, Luka might be on the move. They're not happy. This just comes absolutely out of nowhere. And it's very, very, it's a seismic move in this league, man. It's okay. So this is my thing. I gotta ask, does Luka have a body in a trunk somewhere that we don't know? Because if that's not the case, I have a hard time understanding how you trade a generational talent, a 25-year-old who took this team to the finals just last year. I know that there are some things about Luka that give you pause, and we're going to get into those. But I still have a hard time understanding how you trade him, how you only negotiate with one team, and you let Luka walk out the door. That's a tough one, man. I got a hard time understanding that if I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan. Now, what does this say about how Nico Harris and Jason Kidd think of Luka as a man? I mean, they clearly said, hey, man, this guy, we don't have the trust that he's going to be able to keep himself in shape and to take the game seriously enough for the next, 10 years. And they didn't want to invest and give that supermax. It says a lot. Nico Harris, Jason Kidd, they weren't feeling your boy Luka, clearly. And now he will be with the Lakers. I mean, Adam Silver's NBA, got to keep the Lakers important. I don't know if we're going app or AP. I think I'm going app. But that was your comment, app. And I got to look at that and I got to say, do I think that this was some sort of collusion or something where Adam Silver said, hey, we got to figure out a way to keep the Lakers relevant? But no. That's not true. Okay, we're going with AP. I'm just calling you AP, man. I'm not saying it twice. AP, this is my thing. There's no way that there was some sort of crazy nefarious plan behind the scenes just to be able to keep the Lakers as relevant as possible. But it is uncanny. I must admit, it is uncanny how the Lakers have been able to, throughout the history of the league, going back to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they're always able to land these great generational players. Shaq, LeBron, Luka. It's crazy. How do they keep doing this? They get Kobe for Vlade Divac. It's crazy. Look, man, Luka has a lot of shortcomings. He's still one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Like you said, I don't understand. Muhammad says they could have gotten Chet and $1 million first-round picks from OKC. Yo, man. Listen, I don't think that. I don't think OKC would trade for Luka just because SGA is clearly running that show and he's such a ball dominant player. I don't see that one personally. But let's keep it real. How you don't auction this guy off? How you don't go out and say we're willing to trade Luka? Have at it and let everybody make their bids and run it up. I don't understand how you don't do that if you're the Mavericks. The reports coming out today are that the Mavericks only spoke to the Lakers, that they identified AD as the guy that they wanted to get, and they went out and they only spoke to the Lakers and they got Luka up out of there. I don't get that. You can't tell me that somebody wouldn't have come up with a better offer than Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first. The Lakers still have another first this year. They didn't even make him give up the second first. Come on, man. Go back and look at that Paul George trade. Paul George being traded out of OKC to the Clippers. And they got, amongst a bunch of other things, they got SGA and the pick that became Jalen Williams. I mean, AD is a top 10 player in the league when he's healthy. When he's healthy, that's a big if with him. He has been injury prone throughout his entire career, even getting the nickname street clothes from one Stephen A. Smith. It doesn't make any sense, man. You know that they could have gotten more for this guy. I think every team, there's not too many teams who wouldn't put out a strong offer for Luka. It's really hard to understand how that was the trade. Like Muhammad said, look what Rudy Gobert got. It's so hard to understand this from Dallas's point of view. If you really feel like this is not the guy and you want to move on, okay. I think that right there is very risky. But at the end of the day, come on, man. Like, you got to get more than that. From Dallas's point of view, this might make them better in the short term. AD and Kyrie is a fantastic pick and roll duo. Their defense obviously gets upgraded. I mean, AD, similar to Luka, has issues staying on the court. So that's just, you're trading one problem for another. And Luka's 25. He's 25 years old, yo. It's hard to understand how you give up on this guy as a 25-year-old. And now, Luka, you go to the Lakers. And Luka, you have to feel some type of way because these people just gave up on you. And I've heard so many people say that there's got to be something more to it. We're going to find out in these next couple of weeks, some shit about what Luka's been doing. He's 300 pounds or some shit. I don't know. I don't know what he's been doing. We do know that he's not in top physical perfection. Like he's not a peak physical athlete. We know that. But at 25 years old, the talent that he has, the shot maker that he is, he's like 28, 8-8 for his career. First team All NBA almost, I think, every year but one since he's been in the league. How do you get rid of that guy? At 25, you just got to, I honestly, if I am Dallas's ownership, I'm trying to do whatever I can to hopefully get him to figure out that he can be a much, much better player if he physically gets himself in better shape. I'm trying my best to get him to figure that out and hoping that he figures it out at some point. I don't know if I can give up on a 25-year-old Luka Doncic. The guy's wildly clutch. He's a fantastic playmaker. His defense is non-existent. But I think that getting in better shape and being somewhat more competent on defense are a lot easier for a player to evolve into as opposed to becoming an otherworldly offensive talent with an extremely strong clutch gene. Those things are not things that you typically pick up at some point. You either are or you ain't. And Luka is that dude. That Dallas team, they're going to be pretty good in the West. And from the Lakers' point of view, you just want 4-1 without AD. And you look at AD, he always talks about how he wants to be a power forward, not a center. Well, he got his wish. He is going to play a lot more power forward now, even though to me, he just seems like a modern day NBA center. I know he doesn't want to, but he just seems like a center to me. And now, if you're AD, it sounds like AD was totally in the dark. LeBron didn't know anything about it. And now you look at this Lakers team moving forward, and you have two players who do a lot of similar things in Luka and LeBron. They both like the ball in their hands. I used to always say, like, you can only have so many players that really want to, handle the ball. But we saw Luka and Kyrie figure it out. We saw Bron and Kyrie figure it out. And these two players, the basketball IQ that they have, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. The Lakers have been playing much better here recently. Like Timothy Santiago says, the Lakers are going to stink. I don't think so, man. Just because they've been playing much better here recently, and that's without AD. And I just think that they have a really good coach, and they have, a savant in LeBron on the floor. And now they're adding Luka. Is there going to be some growing pains, some figuring out? Yes. But I don't want to try to guard that team in a close game in the fourth. When you have Luka, he's in range once he steps in the building. And then you have Bron just making all the smart decisions and him being able to have less of the facilitator and the ball handling role on him. I think that'll be good for him in the long run. And for the Lakers, if you're talking about setting yourself up to make the most out of these last few years of LeBron and then look to the future, this is about as good as it gets. It's crazy how these great players, they always end up finding their way to the Lakers, man. They really do. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough to look at this in the right now and not look at, what's going to happen moving forward and what this means for the Lakers long term. But right now, Lakers are going to be okay. I think that Dallas maybe got a little bit better in the short term, but that's hard to say considering that they made it to the finals last year. And, all this shade that's being thrown Luka's way, and I'm one of the first people to criticize him for his lack of defense and his lack of physical fitness. I'm one of the first. Dude has been one of the best players in the league the last 5 years. That's not even a question. He led his team to the NBA Finals last year when, at the beginning of the playoffs, nobody was talking about Dallas coming out of the West. And he was the best player on that team. So I don't know if if you tell me all those things, I got a hard time understanding how you ship that guy out when he's 25. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Muhammad, appreciate you, brother. Timothy Santiago, keep saying that Luka is Westbrook 2.0. I don't know if I see that one. And Luka's a turnover machine, a ball hog. Look at his usage rates and can't play any defense. Sure, he was the best player on a team that got to the finals last year. So you might have some criticism for him, but his results kind of speak for themselves. And I'd say that most people would tell you that Luka's been one of the best players in the NBA the last 5 years since he's gotten the league, basically. All those things that you said have some truth. But there's not too many teams or players who would say, yeah, I definitely don't want this guy. And this Dallas Maverick team, They drafted Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic on the same night, and they're both gone. It's going to be interesting to see how this works out on the Lake Show side. I think that Luka and LeBron are smart enough basketball players to figure it out. But more than that, I think JJ Redick is a smart enough basketball mind to figure it out. I think JJ is going to figure this out. And I think that if you get both of them healthy in the playoffs, their Lakers are definitely not done. They're going to be looking to add a big. They need like an athletic rim protector. Many people say that Dallas is not done, that they might be going and looking to pick up maybe a Jimmy Butler. It's all going to be very interesting. I think this trade deadline just got ratcheted up. Yeah, Tim Santiago saying that JJ Redick is a bad coach. You couldn't be more wrong. The Lakers are 28-19, which is, in my opinion, a better record than I would have thought they would have had. And if you actually watch basketball and you actually know the game, and you've seen how JJ Redick has schemed up against the Celtics, how he schemed up against the Memphis Grizzlies, against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then last night against the Knicks, calling him a bad coach means that you just don't know that much about basketball. And I just, I don't. If you call JJ Redick a bad coach, I mean, first of all, he's barely been a coach, and everything he's shown so far has, I would say, lends to him being a very good young bright coach. So I just think you're way off there. This is going to be interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting, and this whole trade line just got ratcheted up. Whole trade deadline just got ratcheted up. Guys are going to be out here, wheeling and dealing and trying to figure things out, trying to figure out how to, improve their teams. And I feel like yesterday's price is not today's price. If Luka can go for that, anything can happen. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate all of the different comments, even if some of them aren't the brightest in my opinion. I know App is asking me, what do I think of Tom Thibodeau? I'm a Tibbs supporter. I like Tibbs. I think Tibbs is a great coach. I think he's the best coach that we've had since Van Gundy. I don't think he's perfect. I think he's evolving to a certain extent. I've seen it. I think we've seen it just within this season. I think if you go back and you look to that game on MLK Day against the Atlanta Hawks and everything that's happened since, Tibbs has expanded the roster. Expanded the rotation. He's playing the subs a little bit more, getting them in earlier in the first quarter. And Tibbs has also, I thought, done a very good job of mixing up the defensive coverages. So Tibbs is going to have to continue to evolve. I thought last night was another teaching point for Tibbs. I think Tibbs needs to look at that game and realize how they're scheming Karl Anthony Towns and realize that we have to have a counter move to that. And it's going to be interesting what happens to this team with its spacing now that we don't have OG Anunoby. Who do we move into the starting lineup? Precious Achiuwa? Precious and Josh Hart on the floor at the same time? I don't know about that. So it's going to be interesting. Chris Boucher from the Raptors is a trade that I would like to see the Knicks make. The only issue is if we trade for Chris Boucher, as my guy Muhammad is suggesting, we have to give up another rotation player. We're going to have to give up either a Mitchell Robinson, who we're hoping he comes back healthy. He would solve a lot of the Knicks' issues as far as their overall lack of rim protection. Cat's defense just last night was horrible. It was horrible. He's not a good pick and roll defender. And when other teams don't put him in the pick and roll over and over and over again, I don't know why JJ Redick was not going to, not get that matchup. He was going to exploit that. So my thing with Boucher is the fact that I just don't see how we add him without giving up major pieces. Yeah, you're talking about giving up Deuce. No way, no how. We're not giving up Deuce. Okay. No. Deuce is way too important to this team. The last thing we need is less guard depth. When campaign is so wishy-washy, and in a game like last night, Tibbs only sees fit to have him play, less than 6 minutes, you cannot give up Deuce. Deuce is one of the few guys that Tibbs really, really trusts. And he is an emerging player on an extremely team-friendly contract. I think if you go get Boucher, you're giving up Mitchell Robinson to do that. And that would just show you that the Knicks have no confidence in him being able to come back and be able to be a contributor. And I wouldn't blame him for that. The guy's always hurt. I think if you can trade Mitch for a wing that you feel like can really help this team, that can knock down a three and can guard somebody, and especially with OG being out right now, Boucher is perfect. And, if the Knicks made that trade, I would not be mad at it. I would love it if the Knicks could get some sort of, wing that can help without giving out Mitch. But you got to look at the money, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them to do anything like that. So I think at the end of the day, that's what ends up happening, is that the Knicks give up Mitchell Robinson to be able to bring in a wing. Because I don't think standing pat, especially with this injury, is something that the Knicks can do. I can't see an expanded role for Landry Shamet. That ain't it. It's going to be an interesting next week. Knicks got back-to-back games, Monday and Tuesday, against the Rockets and against the Raptors. I will probably do a Nick on Knicks on Wednesday to talk about those two games. Or maybe we'll just go ahead and do He Did This to Me on Wednesday this week. If you don't know, He Did This to Me is the podcast I do with my dad. It's a weekly podcast. We're 74 episodes in. We haven't missed a week. And Muhammad says, what about a trade for Zach LaVine to boost their offense? Muhammad, man, you got to understand the money. We cannot take on a Zach LaVine contract, period, point blank. Not possible. Timothy, first of all, you really hate the Lakers. You're yelling. I don't know what you're doing with the all caps. It's too much, bro. Just turn caps lock off. Turn that caps lock off, all right? He says the Lakers will fall back and he'll be laughing in their faces. I don't think he'll actually be in the Lakers' faces because I don't think they know you exist. But that is your opinion. You're entitled to it. I think that there is a chance that the Lakers, I don't think they were winning a championship anyway this year. And I do think that they losing AD is going to be something that's going to be hard for them to deal with. But they've been playing well without AD. They're going to get another center. And I think when you get another center and then you add Luka, I think they're a better team than they were before. And I think that JJ Redick is a good coach. And I think saying that he's not is kind of wild. Nick T comes in with Jalen Brunson is overrated. Well, he's the starter in the All-Star game. He's averaging 26 and 7, and he is one of the 3 best point guards in the league. I don't think that those things are arguable, Nick T. I'm not sure why you feel like he's so overrated, but I think he's got the best contract in basketball, and he's extremely underrated if you compare him to the money that he's making. And I think that Jalen Brunson has fought for and earned every accolade that he's ever gotten and very much deserves them. So, yeah, you're not going to find too much agreeance over here with any type of Jalen Brunson slander. Dude, Timothy, you got to stop. You got to stop copying, pasting, and repeating yourself in the chat, man. You got to stop doing that. We love all the engagement here. Yes, chat. We love when people come in and they chat, but the all caps and the copying, pasting, and repeating yourself in the chat. We get it. You don't like the Lakers. You don't think they're good. We get it. Big week ahead for these Knicks, man. What are they going to do? How, what's the real prognosis when it comes to OG and this foot? Who knows? But it is definitely going to be an interesting couple weeks for the Knicks. It's going to be an interesting deadline for the entire NBA. and we will be here to talk about it as always. It's your boy Nick on Knicks.